Hi, my name is William Bell, and this is my discipline plan or oral presentation. My discipline plan, I set it up for my 8th grade science class, which also contains a lab. In order to make sure my students get the most they can out of my class to reach their full potential in my science class, so I can properly prepare them for high school science courses, we have to have discipline in the classroom. The way that I define discipline is that discipline is something that students have to learn from the teacher. Discipline promotes and maintains a safe and secure classroom. It also promotes positive behaviors and interactions between students. Also, it will allow students to help them learn to make better choices in the future. This is something that I must teach at the very beginning, and something that I have to continue to teach throughout the year. My main theory whenever I look at discipline is that I have to model, I have to show, and I have to explain the behaviors that I wish the students to display in my class. I cannot expect my students to display behaviors that they don't totally, fully understand. So this is the purpose of the modeling of the behaviors. I have to allow my students to practice the behaviors, and whenever I see students not following the behaviors during the course of the year, I have to ensure that the students are redirected in the way that these behaviors, as far as the behaviors that I want them to display in the class, becomes second nature to them. And this is all through the classroom procedures, rules, and limits that I place on my students throughout the course of the year. Because I also teach a lab, rules, procedures, and limits are extremely important, not just to maximize the instructional time for each student, but to ensure that each student is safe and nobody is harmed during the course of any kind of lab experience. Also, I must be able to communicate to my students the importance of my rules, limits, and procedures in order for them to ensure that they understand why they're placed on them, and also to help them learn to make better decisions for themselves in the future. It's my responsibility, both professionally and ethically, in order to ensure the safety of every one of my students in my class. Also, it's my responsibility to ensure that every student can get the most out of the instruction that I'm providing for them. In order to do that, disruptions and misbehavior must be minimized as much as possible. It's up to me to manage the behavior of the students in each of my classes. Also, it's my responsibility to communicate with the administration, and also, importantly, with the parents, and also to keep an open communication with the students about rules, procedures, and any incidents that occur in my class. I must correctly communicate the expectations that I have for all my students to the administration, parents, and students, to ensure that I can prevent as many misbehaviors as possible in my class. I have to make sure I plan out my lesson in order to minimize downtime, in order to keep the students fully engaged in class, because if they're fully engaged during class, they're not causing problems, they're not misbehaving. Also, this all starts on the first day of school. On the first day of school, I need to be able to communicate clearly my expectations for them, model the behavior, and also allow them to practice. But along with redirection during the course of the year, I have to show them positive reinforcements such as praise. Students thrive on praise. I got to give them a good job, thanks for doing the right thing. But also in the same breath that I have to be able to take care of all the negative behaviors that come up. I have to be able to redirect them, and also have the students repeat the correct behavior, and I need to communicate with the student why that procedure or particular rule is in place. Students are expected to follow the procedures. They're expected to grow. They're expected to learn. It is my intention for the students to get to the point where they're capable of making the correct decisions without anybody looking. And this is all going to be possible through working with the administration, parents, through communications, trying to take care of, trying to create the positive relationships needed in order for me to communicate my expectations clearly to the students, and also receive the help that I may need for a particular student from the administration, and also to keep the parents well informed so we can teach the students to make that maturity leap to where they're capable of making correct decisions by themselves.